Uwaga! Materiał, którego właśnie słuchasz, ma charakter wyłącznie rozrywkowy i informacyjny. Nie stanowi porady medycznej, ani nie zachęca do stosowania jakichkolwiek substancji. Wszystkie działania podejmujesz na własną odpowiedzialność, a autorzy podcastu nie ponoszą odpowiedzialności za skutki wykorzystania tych treści w praktyce. Jeśli temat jest dla Ciebie rażący, śmiało wyłącz, ale subskrypcję możesz zostawić. So hello guys and welcome in another English one podcast. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different just because this is like a new formula for me and for all the guests that's on my channel, just because I've never had three people at once, including myself. So hello guys, today we have Jordan Hutchinson and Tuttle. Welcome.
Well,
Thank you for having us, man.
The first opening question is going to be, how are you guys doing? Just because you're actually on probably like the moon right now, Jordan. And Chris obviously is always just unhumanly fresh, looking healthy, young, and like a proper dietitian look.
Yeah.
He's got more energy than me, man.
Always. Despite the
Yeah,
fact that he's probably eating like 1,200 calories daily.
Yeah, I got a kombucha right here, getting the gut health.
he got me on that kombucha too. Those Buddha kombuchas.
Those are the best.
But we're doing good though, man. We're crushing this prep. Everything's going very smooth. So
Yeah, you look like a younger version of yourself right now, just because you're probably a little bit fresher.
yeah, I mean, it's been a long prep. I don't feel fresh. My body doesn't feel fresh when it's been lean this long, as far as
Yeah.
joints and muscle and overall, like in the gym. It's just it is a long time to do it for a longer stretch. But we got a little bit of a boost post Texas Pro. Got to bring the body weight up a little bit, eat some more food, a lot more food than I was eating. So it's overall been good. Recovery's still been pretty good. And I have my days with as far as like mental fatigue from being in pro so long, but I can't tell you how much Chris helps with that. He helps me a lot with the mental aspect of this. And I'm learning more and more, because obviously this is going to be every year for the rest of my career. I'm going to have longer durations of being in prep and doing this for long periods. So I'm learning, my history of competing. I haven't done that many shows in the grand scheme of things, especially being now an Olympian. So it's still a learning process to manage everything and for this long in prep, because I truly do enjoy off season and training in the off season and stuff like that. But I think we're managing very well.
Yeah, like not everyone realized that you're actually probably like a year long on a prep, because some guys are just thinking that you have competed like 3, 4 weeks ago, something like that, like even
It
less than
was
that.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, I
yeah.
guess.
Let's say 4 weeks ago, they thought that you're on dieting probably like on a diet like for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe, because like 8 weeks prep, then 4 weeks in between the shows, and that's it. And no, you're actually been lean for at least a year right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, we still had an off season. We still definitely got the body weight up in the off season, but I was lean for a long time post show last year, which
And we were,
aided.
and bro, we were way leaner than we ever have been. You were so lean in the off season, you got criticized for it.
Yeah, everybody was commenting like, this dude needs a burger. Why aren't you eating? But it
Yeah,
worked.
yeah, definitely. And I think that more and more people right now realizing that putting on a lot of body fats on the off season is not a way to progress anymore. So
No.
maybe, Chris, maybe you can talk a little bit about that, just because this is a subject that needs to be bring up a little bit more, especially right now.
Yeah, so without, I mean, I could talk forever. So there's so much aspects of this I could explain. So I'm trying to explain it as simple as words as possible. And the simple fact of where people are negative about being too lean are those that can't keep their diet under control. And then they're constantly teetering and yo-yo dieting of struggling to get stay back lean because they messed up, and then they're in a surplus, an excess surplus, and they're back to lean. Well, that's detrimental. So like when we came out of Texas last year, he had a lot of things lined up. He had to travel. It was like travel like 10 weeks post show. He had surgery he had to get done. And I said to him, I go, listen, man, like we can't get fat. Like I like to take my guys out of a show and the rebound, the first 8 weeks post show is not a time to push food or gear. It's just not. And I like to regulate them, keep them lean, get their body ready for an extended push. So instead of normal people doing like an 8 week post show rebound, I like to have an 18-week post show rebound, but just break the body for 8 weeks and then hit the 18 weeks push. So for him, I was like, we can't even do that. We have to wait. So I kept him pretty lean, very lean. He was striding glutes for like, I think 10 weeks post show. And people were like criticizing him and like, people just don't understand. And the bottom line is I was feeding him enough and where his training performance was improving. So like it's not like he's sitting there suffering every day with low fatigue. Like I gave him just enough food where like, hey man, I'm pretty hungry, but like my performance is great. Awesome. And we're on TRT too. And then once we got on the other side of everything, now he's been like 4 months on like TRT and eating very low food for him, basically maintenance calories. And then we just hit the cycle and hit the food, and his body just goes later. And he put on more lean tissue in that short period of time than he did the previous off season, which had 4 more months. So it's
And
like,
plus,
dude,
we
like
got
body,
heavier the prior that we got to 303 morning weight the
yeah,
prior off season, and this off season, I was bigger and only got to 294. And most guys would look at the scale and be like, "Ah, I didn't get as big as I got last off season." But
yeah.
it's not about the scale weight; it's about how much lean tissue you're putting on.
And I think a lot of people justify eating shit for that reason. Oh, you got to bulk up. You got to eat, dude. You got to eat. No, man, you just don't have any self control. And that's really a good reality of it. I hate to say it. That's what it is. I mean, when you're bodybuilding, body fat is not what you want anyway. There's a level of body fat that you might need to be able to optimize your training performance. And you don't want to keep calories too low and have performance suffer just to stay in the leaner side because obviously there's a genetic component there. But if his performance is great, I don't give a shit how lean he is. And if he's
And,
progressing, then that's great.
and that's the
Yeah.
thing too, is like what you said, some guys just don't have the discipline to do it. Like Chris knows I can get fat easy. I'm not one of these guys that can go out and have a bunch of cheat meals and it not affect me. Like literally last year, I remember after Thanksgiving, I had a knee problem for like 3 or 4 weeks straight just because I ate. And when I say I ate on Thanksgiving, like I had like two meals that day, some kind of nice breakfast meal, and then a big Thanksgiving feast with all the friends and everybody. And the rest of the day was on diet. And then literally I had so much water retention that like my knee was killing me for a few weeks. So like I have to stay that rigid where there's a point in the off season where Chris is like, all right, dude, no more pizza. Like there's certain things that we have to do. And there are those guys that can eat a ton of cheat meals and never get fat. I'm definitely not one of those. So I feel like I even have to fall on the even more disciplined side in the off season of limiting myself. So it never goes away. It's not just like, okay, post prep, I can't binge. It's all off season. Not only that, but we also focus on me never eating to the point of distending my gut when I'm eating off plan to push that gut out, and then that ends up hurting you the next year because if you grow a bunch and the waist grows, it doesn't even matter that you put on any more size. So we're
Right.
very particular in the off season.
Yeah, definitely. And funny that because I think that those cheat meals like never just came from the US, just because I've heard a lot of coaches using the word that he needs to eat at least one to two cheat meals a week because he cannot bring his weight up or something like that. Or he uses those cheat meals regularly with his guys because it's bring up the weight after the cheat meal or something like that. But it's everything comes to the calories at the end of the day. And I think that in Europe there's more like a I don't want to say that we have like a more knowledge, but like a more maybe like a willpower or something like that because those here it is not something that you see very often that coach is gonna give you a cheat meal. It's maybe a refeed, maybe something like that, or the cheat meal is something that it's not on like for example for my guys I can tell them that you can have a one cheat meal per week, but this is not something that's gonna make you better. This is just something that
Exactly.
yeah, that you can
Yeah.
do, but you're gonna suffer from it probably. So like this is came out, I think, from the US. And funny enough that you said that you cannot eat shit because you're gaining weight. And it is funny just because sometimes you hear that people says, yeah, but Ronnie do that, Ronnie do this, and the same people says, yeah, but you are not Ronnie. And then they are eating like shit because so and so eats like that and he grew.
Hmm.
And they just forget that they are not so and so. They just uh, Joe Blow who just cannot do shit because he's like an very to zero genetic
Yeah.
endeavor compared to those guys who are on the Olympia stage. Because sometimes people think that is if someone is 15 out of 20 guys out the Olympia, he's not good or something like that. If you are even last, but on the Olympia stage, you are one of the few people on the world with genetics that's probably not going to happen ever.
Yep.
So, yeah, it is
100%.
bizarre. It
It's
is
funny
bizarre.
because I have that conversation with people. Like, I'm not delusional. You know, there are these comments online, people that are supportive and fans or whatever. That are like, oh, Jordan, I see you in my top four this year. I'm like, it's my first Olympia. I don't have that kind of expectation for me. Like, I don't think you understand the level this is. But and I believe in myself, but like I've told a lot of people, even being in the top 15 with this kind of lineup is an incredible feat. So like people do, I think in bodybuilding, it's like everyone has this short-term memory where they forget the shows you've won to get to that point and all the guys you beat to get to that point. And they're like, oh, he sucked. He was last at the Olympia, his first Olympia. He's no good. It's like these armchair quarterbacks that watch foot NFL on Sundays and they're sitting leaned back with their beer and oh, that quarterback's such an idiot. Why would he throw that pass? It's like, dude, you wouldn't be able to perform
Yeah.
like that. Who are you to talk about that?
Or like coming the
You know,
coach, like that NFL coach doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, really? You sure? Because you had like
getting
five
paid
people.
millions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Crazy, dude.
that was like when the Big Ramy can't win the Olympia because he's always slept with his shape or something like that, and all of the coaches around the world would, if I coach him, I would do this, I would do that. Yeah, definitely, because Ronnie just for some reason didn't think that maybe I need to be on a deficit for a little bit
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah.
Why
It's
doesn't he just
like
get tighter? I don't get it. Why doesn't he just get leaner? I don't understand. He just needs to
maybe you
diet a
try
little
to do
longer.
a cardio or something like that. I don't know, maybe or
Yeah.
just eat less carbs or
Uh,
something. I don't know. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, guys, today we are actually meeting to talk a little bit about more of your cooperation, just because this is like a really cool, I think, I don't know how to say this. It's like having a coach for a long time. It is a very strange and like a cool endeavor to have. It is something that it is a kind of relationship that is you cannot compare any other thing in life, I think. This is
You
something
can't at
that
all.
you either
yeah.
have with your coach or haven't. And those who haven't just switch the coaches like every other week or something like that. And you guys, I think, are those who have it. So the first question of today is gonna be for how long you even work together.
We're going on 6 years now. It's in 2026. It'll be January. It'll be 6 years.
6 years. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
And how
which is
everything is
awesome.
started. How everything is started. This is
Jordan,
like
want to tell
It's
that
a
story?
funny story. You can tell it.
Okay. He reached out to me and I don't remember exactly when. He knows the timeline better than me. And he's like,
January
hey,
2020.
January 2020. He's like, hey, I want to work with you. I came from so and so coach. And I was like, man, I'm not taking any clients on right now. Like, I didn't want to work with him because of who he was working with prior, because I didn't want to be associated with like, and at the time, I guess he didn't have Jordan use much drugs anyway, but like I knew that coach was like a big, big drug pusher. And I didn't want to be involved with someone always being like, are we going to use more? Are we going to use more? And I just didn't want to. And then he asked me a second time. I said no. And then finally, like 2 months later, he's like, hey, man, I know I'm reaching out again. I really want to work with you. I'll listen to anything you say. And then I'm like, send me some pictures. Let me see what we got. And then like, I'm like, I'll help this dude. I'm like, he's persistent and like he looks like he's going to listen. And I want to work with coachable people. Anybody out there who's a coach, who's a good coach, understands it. Like there are people that you coach and you click with. And then I started to help him at that point in time. And like, and the rest was history. From that point in time, I'll tell you though, Jordan didn't miss one check-in 6 years. Not one check-in has Jordan missed in 6 years. He's always been on top of it. If he's ever like, hey man, I'm gonna send the check-in an hour late today. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's Jordan, right? It's like, it's okay as long as it comes in today. But regardless, thanks for letting me know. Or he tells me if he can't, if it's like, a flight or whatever. But it's been nothing but consistent progress the entire time. And he's honestly, I mean, I have some really good clients and long-term clients as well. Christian Palmer is one of them who just won a show with me. He's been with me for 8 years. And Jordan is extremely coachable. And I mean by that is in he has humility and he's able to listen, understand, comprehend, have a conversation. He's not somebody who's just like, I'm just going to follow blind directions. He like will be like, hey, well, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And we work together because there's been times where it's like, hey man, do you mind if I try this? I'm like, yeah, we could try that. Let's give it a shot. And I'll explain to him what we're doing. And he's like, okay, that makes sense. I like that. Let's go move forward. So it's like the coach and client relationship has become obviously a close friendship as well. But like our his ability to give me information that I need so I can make the right changes and my ability to tell him what I see and what change moving forward is just paramount. Like it just can't get any better than that. And I noticed that right off the rip. And Jordan does kind of see himself less than he is. And I would say that's the only obstacle we've had. I mean, at one point, he said he wasn't sure if he should bodybuild anymore. Right. He's like, I don't know if
Yeah.
bodybuilding's for me. And I go, Jordan, you gotta trust me. Trust me. This is gonna work. And he's like, okay. But at that point, he trusted me, but still didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he won and he got his pro card, he's like, okay, I understand. I believe you now.
That was one of those kind of questionable calls from a regional show. We were like 90% conditioned for my last regional show that qualified me for USA's. And there was this older guy that was super conditioned, but like couldn't touch my structure, my size, my lines, like anything like that. And he beat me for this overall. We were 6 weeks out from USA's, and I was like, I told my wife and I told Chris, I was like, man, I'm gonna get stomped up there. Like, there's no way I can go to USA's and not make a fool of myself if I can't win this little local show in North Carolina. And then I looked at the videos of on stage and compared it myself. I was like, okay, I should have won that show. Like, let's keep doing this. But it's definitely he's helped me a lot with my belief in myself. Like I I've always been very hard on myself. Anybody that's known me for a long time or knew me in high school, like if I made a mistake, I beat myself up in sports. Like if I missed a shot in basketball, it's all I thought about for the next like 20 minutes of the game. Like it was just it's always been I think it makes me better at bodybuilding in some aspects, but it also like I I've been definitely boosting my confidence over the years, clearly with, the wins that we've had together, but Chris also helping me mentally to understand like I am built for this. From those early stages, he helped me really believe in myself. Which the mental aspect from a coach like that and the relationship we have, just that's just as important as the diet updates and everything else that we do, is the mental aspect that Chris has helped me with to be a better bodybuilder.
Yeah, this
It's like,
is yeah.
I'll say real quick, for me as a coach, I don't like, and I'm not like any of the I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of coaches who are just like, shut up and follow the plan. You're going to be fine. Shut up, and follow the plan. I don't do that. I will explain the changes. Like I will greatly elaborate on why I'm doing, what I'm seeing, what I project to see, where our check-in's going to be, and what I hope to achieve in that coming week. Like I will explain to them that. I like to have a relationship. That's my passion. I like to have that connection with my client. I don't want it to be like, cut carbs, increase cardio, adjust T3, add this. Okay, bye, bye. I don't, that's not my style of coaching. I don't prefer that. I prefer more of like a conversation, understanding more what's going on with that athlete. And that's why like I think I have a very good client retention because I have so many clients I've had for greater than 6 years. And I think that's the reason why, because I like forming that relationship. And not to mention when they succeed and they win, there's nothing more emotional than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to believe that I'm the same, but it's not me to judge. But we have to come back a little bit to the origin, just because this is something that's not gonna like, quit out of my head. Why do you be so precise with wanted to have Chris as your coach? Why you even choose at the beginning Chris as your coach, and then if he screw you like for the first time he just let you for the second time, probably third time he says no, and you still that's I will probably say screw this guy. I'm gonna find someone else, and who
Yeah.
cares? A coach is a coach. Who cares? So why you stick to the Chris?
Well, I do, back then I had worked with a couple more local coaches. And then in 2017, I did my first NPC show, worked with like a guy that literally went to my gym. I had a, bad showing as far as conditioning goes. Then worked with another guy that was a few hours away from me, but was in North Carolina. And he put a lot of effort in me, but I lost. I went from like 255 to 195 in 16 weeks in that prep. I lost 60 pounds. And it was before that prep, I was like, had these goals of going to a national level show. And so, 2017, I had showed up out of shape as a heavyweight, then worked my butt off the whole next year to show up as a light heavyweight, and literally showed up 15 pounds lighter, but looked like I'd lost all the muscle I put work in to gain. So like I was on the hunt for somebody really good, and I also was working really hard to pay as much as I could, towards bodybuilding. It's an expensive sport, and so I invested in a top level, well known coach at the time, and this was in 2019. And it was not like my experience with Chris. It was these late night responses that were way, way, way later. Just a real quick response. Cool, keep going, man. Like, and I could tell I just needed someone that could see my potential. Since the age of 14, I've had a job. I've been a workhorse. I love to work hard at something. And so I want someone that believes in me. And, I'd heard through several people that Chris was incredibly knowledgeable with nutrition, bodybuilding in general, peaking clients. And so, of course, I reached out to him, and it wasn't from his email, it wasn't like an immediate rejection on my end. And this was probably maybe like November, December 2019, because I think we started together in early 2020. But I had reached out to some other guys. I remember even reaching out to like Ian Valier, just because, at the time he was coaching Chris and coaching some other guys, and he was busy with his season, so couldn't take me on. So I'd been reaching out to quite a few people, but me and Chris's conversation stood out to me and what I'd heard about him. And and it wasn't a social media thing either. So if you know Chris, he's not focused on promoting himself and all his wins and all his accolades on social media. It's more word of mouth. People that know Chris know how good he is at what he does and the kind of person that he is. And so that stood out to me. Whereas there's so many coaches that are just great at marketing themselves, or they're the new hot thing right now or whatever. And I knew Chris from everybody I talked to. His character was what stood out in his ability and in his knowledge as a coach. So I was determined for that matter. And like I said, he may have been like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Hopefully this kid just goes away the first time or two. But he didn't totally reject me in the email. So I kind of had this hope in the back of my head, like I'll talk him into it. So I was persistent for that reason. I had some bad experiences where I felt what I heard about Chris would definitely be the type of person I needed to be with in order to get the result on stage that I wanted. And as you see, Chris peaks clients very well. He's very
Yeah.
consistent. Um, and so I wanted to be a part of that for sure.
Yeah. You guys are answering all my questions without me asking it, so that's great. And Chris, note to yourself that you have to be a little bit more straightforward if you wanted to blow someone, just because it isn't
Well, it's like
working.
it's like I'm generally a nice person, and like people know me like I'm a kind person. So it's like I try to let people down carefully. I'm never rude or to anybody. I mean, like I have inquiries all the time, like, hey man, I just don't think we're going to be a good match. Like I don't think I'm going to provide to you what you might need, and that way they just let them go. It's just I can dissent sometimes. I'm wrong sometimes, but I can sense sometimes the people. It's like how this person is seems more of a challenge, more of like it's going to be like a headbutting. I don't want that. You know what I mean? But I'm lucky. I don't really don't get too many of those people. But yeah, social media, Jordan. I hate social media. I can't stand it. I can't stand it, dude. When I was no longer signed with Animal and I didn't have any obligations to post, I was like, this is amazing. I don't have to
I
post
bet.
anything. This is incredible. But
Uh,
yeah, I never liked it.
I have to say that your marketing is definitely working just because I'm sitting here in a very small town in Poland and I exactly know who you are, what you're doing, what's your history and stuff like that, even though you're barely posting anything on the internet. So
Well, like
so it's
Jordan said, it's
definitely
like
working.
like Jordan said, it's like when you're authentically producing a good product, you don't always necessarily have to convince people that your product is good. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they say that Porsche haven't done any commercials
Yeah.
because it needed, they don't need it.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I'm not going to ask what kind of coach Chris is, just because you just explained that very clearly, and
Good.
he tell us this,
Oh,
himself as well.
I want to add something real quick to that before your next question is one thing I'm going to add, and which I'm going to rub in people's faces because it kind of ticks me off a little bit, where I get criticized because I'm health conscious of my clients. I get my clients are telling me their blood pressure, their blood glucose, and they're getting labs constantly, and I hear constantly in the industry from few people that you're only going to make it so far with Chris because he's too conservative. He's too health conscious. He's too health conscious. Really, my guys are doing just fine and they still have their health and their blood is good. Their blood pressure is managed, blood glucose is managed, and I don't have anybody on my watch in the hospital with freaking jaundice with any type of issues. And like I'm proud of that. And it kind of gets me mad that people they have the delusion to criticize somebody because they care about their athlete's health, which is to my
Mm.
mind fucking mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
100%.
Yeah, I've always said that the best bodybuilder is the living one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you're not breathing, you're probably not gonna go very far. So
Yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
something that's this is something that definitely is going to be changing in a matter of time. I think that people just starting to see that being in optimal health, it is something that's probably gonna gain you a little bit more muscle than 1,500 mgs of tren yearly.
Oh.
So yeah,
and see,
definitely.
that's
Oh.
the thing is a lot of people like to ask me and Chris, what have you done different? Like, what's the secret? What are you guys doing? And that's the thing is like most people would be surprised at how conservative we are. But then people also look at me and be like, man, you look really healthy. Your skin looks really healthy. What do you do for your skin? What do you do to like, and you see these guys jump on stage that you know are with a coach that pushes these things, you know, way over the top. and they just have this unhealthy look to their physique, and it gets worse year over year. Whereas I stay fresh, Chris, like he was talking about, we manage my blood pressure, we manage my blood sugar, we look at my labs all the time. I've always had, Chris, have I not always had good labs with you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like
And
we've
Jordan,
we've been
you're not like a pile of cheese.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
it's just more is not better.
and this is a good conversation. We'll share these little funny stories. When Jordan did his first pro show and he gets fifth in his pro debut, he comes backstage. Well, actually, it's not the prejudging. He comes back, I think it was prejudging. He's like, "Hey, I was talking to a lot of the guys back there," and he's like, "Man, they're using a hell of a lot more than we are." And he's like, "Do you think we're shortchanging ourselves?" And I go, "Jordan, how much mass did you put on since USA's?" And he's like, "Oh, like 20 pounds." And I go, "Yeah, 20 pounds." And he goes, "I see your point. I see your point." And then we just stayed with the same cycles we've always ran in the off season, like pretty much the entire time because it
Yeah.
kept working. And I got confronted by somebody you and I both know at Texas Pro,
That
I
was
think
last year,
last year.
24.
And this
Yep.
guy comes over to me. He's like, "Dude, Jordan's making crazy ground. You got to have him on a ton of shit." I'm like, "I don't." And he's like, "Oh, dude, that's hard to believe." I'm like, "Listen, you're coming over to me right now and confronting me, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Watch this." All right, watch. I'm pulling up my email. Here's my email. Okay, you got my email. All right, I'm going to put in Jordan. Okay, Jordan's going to come up. All right, click on his plan. And I go like this. And I show him his plan. Like, look, look, look. See the cycle? And he's like, "Oh, that's actually very moderate." Oh, okay. Because people like, people always think you're lying. You know what I mean? Like you're lying.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I,
no.
That and the people that give us suggestions on how we should peak differently and stuff like that. And it's like when we're nailing our peaks, and Tyler Mannion's like, "Oh, you brought a perfect peak like last year to Texas." He said that, and it's like, so one of the biggest reasons why we work well together. We actually had a conversation about this yesterday over text, and Chris was talking about how I take advice, but I also don't just take blind advice from him or anybody else. But I'm not going to listen to people. If someone tells me I should do something, I run it by him. And that's because I trust him and I know he wants what's best for me. He's not going to hold back something that's going to benefit me long term just because. He's going to help me with longevity and performance at the same time. And the problem is, especially as you grow in the sport and get more well known, people are always going to have their opinions and suggestions on things. And I think that's why people end up coach hopping and ruining a lot of their progress that they could have with a coach because they don't have time to build that rapport and build, like Chris knows my body so well at this point. And they end up jumping ship because they think the grass is greener on the other side because everybody has these opinions. Oh, you should be doing this, your coach should be doing that. Why aren't you doing this? And whatever else. And it's just everybody has their opinions in this sport. There's way too many opinions floating around, and they're all like black and white. This is right, this is wrong. And I just have never really listened to people that want to sway me another way because I know me and Chris have we have both the same goals. And that's a big reason why. I mean, other than the fact that he's like family to me now, at this point, but in the early years where there were people, coaches giving suggestions where I could have thought, I wonder if they would do better with me, right? Because everybody considers that. But like I never swayed because I always trusted that Chris had my best interest in mind. So there was no swaying me from Chris.
I,
Um,
I want to comment on two things, Jordan, and this is what I find interesting. And I'll say what type of person I am is Jordan comes to me with an idea. And you know how sometimes coaches' egos are very fragile, or people's egos are pretty fragile. And he
Yeah.
comes up with an idea that's not my idea. Say it's someone else's idea. And he's like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And if it makes sense to me, big Jordan, we can give that a shot with training for a bit. Like, I'm okay with that. Instead of be like, "No, we're not doing that because it's not my idea." Like, I think that's silly. Like, I don't have an ego in that regard where like I have an open mind just like my T does, where we can like come up with like we hear a concept, we hear an idea, we look at the idea, We look how it could form into our plan. We'll see if it works. Oh, it might work. We'll give it a shot. Oh, it didn't work. Okay. Now we know. Unless I feel like something's detrimental, instead of just blindly saying no to him, because he asked me a question yesterday about a treatment protocol in a short period of time before Olympia. And I kind of gave my feedback on that treatment protocol. And I was just kind of like, this is my thoughts on it. I'm like, you're welcome to try it, but I just don't know if it's going to be a giant waste of your time given all you have on your plate. And that was our decision. And the other thing is, which I find fascinating, is there's plenty of knowledgeable coaches out there. There really are. So when I hear somebody blindly just say, hey, this is how your peak should be, or this is what you should be doing, and they don't know exactly what you are doing, that's an impossible statement to make. If anybody from Texas Pro and in the top 5 or in the top 10 come over to me and go, Chris, how do you think I should have changed my peak? Or how do you think I should have changed my training? And I don't have everything out in front of me, like knowing exactly what they were doing over the period of time, what they did in the peak week, when was your travel day. I don't know all that data. I can't fucking comment. So when I hear people comment and they just go over, like, hey, man, you probably should have taken a quarter diazide, or you probably should have cut water earlier. It's like, that's the dumbest statement to make because you don't know any of the facts. So when people say that, I'm just like scratching my head, being like, I don't even know how you could say that. I can see somebody on stage being like, man, they need to be more conditioned. Sure. But I could never say they need more cardio. They need less carbohydrates. Maybe they need less sleep, more sleep. I can't make any of those because I don't fucking know what they're doing. So when people say that, it's mind boggling.
Yeah. I wanted to say three things right before you started to talk, and the one thing is the thing that you just said. The funniest thing in our community is that coaches is always bragging that yeah you have to first know your athletes and you have to cooperate for at least a year or make an off season together just to I have to know you and stuff like that, and then some random guy is on the stage and they wanted to give him an advice like they know him for a long period of time. They don't know anything. They don't know if he is a buffalo and maybe he needs like 5 diazide before the stage because
Yeah.
he's holding 20 pounds of water. Who knows? And maybe he used a one of 8 of diazide, and he needs to use 0 and drink 8 liters of water the day of the show because he needs that. And they don't know, but yet they trying to pretend that they would do this better. This is the one thing, and the second thing is I'm no longer consider myself as an athlete per se, more like a coach. And saying that, I would say that we are, as a coaches, are constantly involved. And something I was doing a year ago, I would probably not do this year. For example, I started to see that I'm lowering my dosage with my guys almost every year and seeing the same or even best results. And sometimes I have a guys and he told me, yeah, but last year we are using so and so, and I said, yeah, today we don't need it.
Yeah.
And they are confused. Why? 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 Do you look bad? No. So why?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
used it a year ago, and
Yeah.
this is like a
100%.
like bizarre thing. They still think that there's like a template. You have to use this, and this out of the show and stuff like that. This is like a bizarre thing that is like constantly going in our industry, and I hope it's gonna die soon because it is just making people minds cloudy, and it's. Sometimes I think that the release of cortisol, thinking about that is worse than not using any of the PEDs. They will probably look better natural than
Yeah.
Yeah.
considering adding
Yeah.
something and thinking that they are not achieving their best because they are not using so and so. And this is crazy. And the third thing I wanted to say, but I just forgot, so this probably wasn't that that
It's all
important.
good,
But
man.
yeah, but this is crazy for me. And can you recall what was your first show together, and what was the results?
What was this first what?
Show together you've done together.
Yeah, it was that regional show prior to USA. So We worked in an off season together. We did like a little bit of an off season push. Then I remember we did a mini cut in 2020, then pushed even more. And we were just trying to add as much muscle as possible that year. Um, and then 2021 in the spring, we started a prep. And the first show was this Victory Classic show in North Carolina in summer of 2021. And that was the one where I missed the overall. And so that was only my third NPC show ever. And then 6 weeks after that, we did USA's and won the overall. So that was August of 2021, when or late July, something like that.
And
It's
yet
funny.
you still think that you are not meant to this.
No, I definitely think I am meant for it now. It was when I didn't win that overall. That was the only time where I was like, gosh, I have worked so hard for this. What am I even doing?
Yeah,
You
but
just can't see
it's still
yourself
a
honestly
second.
sometimes.
And he's 30 years old.
Yeah, crazy.
It's funny. It's like when we were doing that first regional show to get a qualification, I honestly didn't give a shit about the overall. I just wanted the qualification because I knew he wasn't going to be perfect for that show because we had 6 more weeks to diet. So I was like, we're good enough to get a qualification. I know we're going to get it. I know we will. That's all I care about. And then the overall kind of shook him mentally a little bit. But him going into USA's like and seeing his shape and his structure, and I'm like, man, he's got structure, he's got lines and we barely made weight. And I'm like, there's no possible way he's not going to get the top five. And then like that day I was helping my dad move to New Hampshire. So like I'm on my computer and Wi-Fi in the computer, my hotspot in the car, and I get bad service. I'm like, Dad, pull over. Pull over. I got to update his plan. I'm like looking at his pictures and updating it. And then we would drive 2 hours and you pull over 2 hours. I'd look at the computer again because making sure I was looking at the pictures and updating them. And then that was monumental. That was definitely
That was a lot of fun.
great time. But
I,
this is great. So he's like, I can eat after the show. I'm like, yeah. And he planned out all this food he was going to eat after the show. And he wins the overall. And his girlfriend, his wife now, but girlfriend at the time. And I was like, Britt, he can't eat tonight. He has a photo shoot tomorrow morning.
We
So
were
he's,
actually married at that point. We got married
oh,
quick,
you were married at that point.
but either way,
Yeah. So his wife at the time, like, hey, you can't eat tonight. You got to tell me he can't eat. He's got a photo shoot tomorrow. And then Jordan calls me and he's like, well, what do you mean I can't eat tonight? I'm like, well, you can't go out and eat a bunch of burgers and fries and do all this shit. Like, you might eat a steak and a potato and a little bit of water, but you got to keep it tight tomorrow. He's like, wait, really? You sh Oh, he's like, so is that? I'm like,
I
guy,
was
it's
like
12
crushed,
more
even
hours.
though I just
yeah,
won Mr. USA title,
12
and
more
then
hours.
like I call Chris, I'm so pumped. And I'm like, but all my friends are already at the burger place, and we planned all this for like donuts and stuff. But Chris knows there are certain guys I've seen, like Hunter Labrada is one of those guys. He can eat post show, and the next day he's just like still hard as nails. I'm not one of those guys. I'll be a
No.
water buffalo the next day.
Yeah.
yeah. I, I,
Funny.
I I just realized that I love that style of podcasting, and I've just realized that I'm looking like a crazy cycle because I'm just smiling my like an idiot because I can't help myself because all those histories are just it's when you're competing that all of the stories are pretty similar because you know actually what's on the mind of the
Yeah. Yeah.
coach and as well as the competitor. So
Yeah.
it's like you have like a perfect combos of two guys thinking the opposite way, and it's like a perfect crash in especially like in the situation like that. And the one thing is happy because you are happy just because you won, but second second thought the burger is
Yeah, I
it's
was like, I
gone.
was so set on eating food in like the next 30 minutes.
His voice was so funny. Oh, wait, what? Yeah, you have photo tomorrow. I have a photo shoot tomorrow. Yeah, you will know, bro. So he had to double check in his mind. So you're saying I can't eat anything tonight? I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't eat
Yeah, and
tonight.
I was actually in Pittsburgh last week at the IFBB headquarters, and I told JM that story, and he told me he was like, yeah, I mean, some guys don't show up to that photo shoot when they
That's
should,
crazy.
and they just don't show up, no
Jeez.
call, no show. And he's like, I don't forget that. And, you know, I remember when I was on the phone with Chris, one of the things that stood out that he said, he's like, you're a pro now, so you got to show up looking like a pro. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. So,
Yeah.
and that, you know, that's the expectation. Like, you got to represent yourself well as an IFBB pro, like, especially a Mr. USA title winner. Like, that's the start of hopefully a big career. And you always got to represent yourself well. So I showed up to the photo shoot looking good. And then I went and ate a lot of food.
And this was actually the difference between those who are sitting on the place that you are right now, so being a successful competitor, and those who don't, just because you are acting like a professional, even though you can say you wasn't professional, just because the day you won your pro card doesn't make you a pro, like
Right.
per
Exactly.
se, because you have to you or I can say it even differently. You've been a pro even though you haven't the card, because
Right.
you
Right.
are acting like one, and this is why you fully deserve to win the card, and that now win those two shows and go to the Olympia, just because you're like a perfect example of how it's supposed to be done, to be
Well,
honest.
thank you, man. That's something I say a lot to people that ask me questions on Instagram, amateurs that are obviously these days, like everyone wants a pro card, right? So, like, you know, I say a couple things. It's conduct yourself like a pro now so that you can become a pro because, like, a lot of people they say, "Oh, I'm going to get that pro card," but then they're so lackadaisical with their off season. They're inconsistent. They can't reel in the food. They can't train without their ego taking over, like all these different things. And then, so you got to conduct yourself like a pro all year in order to become a pro. And you also have to just chase the pro physique and not just chase the card. So it's about bodybuilding is about chasing a physique because that's what's going to get you to those next levels, not just chasing a status.
Statystyki podpowiadają mi, że duża część osób oglądających ten kanał wciąż go nie subskrybuje. Dlatego jeżeli należysz do tego grona, zasubskrybuj już teraz oraz wpadaj na naszego Discorda. Link znajdziesz w opisie tego filmu. Zapraszam Cię również do wspierania ruchu Zapierdalać Trzeba poprzez zakupywanie merchu oraz szerowanie, udostępnianie i lajkowanie. Wielkie dzięki i wracamy do materiału.
And you know what's funny? That this is you can like extrapolate this to the every aspect of life, because there are guys who are laughing at those like mental coaches who are like successful businessmen and stuff like they are just bullshitting people. And actually, you can achieve whatever you want if you really wanted to, because saying that I want to be rich doesn't mean you want it to be rich.
Yes.
You just like the idea. You don't like the daily struggles. You don't like to wake up every day at 4:30 or 5 a.m. and doing your like a task to do that. Maybe you have to read a book for an hour every day, and then maybe do something like a cursus. Maybe you have to go to for the 8 to 12 hours to your daily job, and then after the job, maybe you have to take some sort of classes for 8, 12, 15 years till you get to the point that you finally reach your goals. And those guys who are managed to do that are always successful. And those who don't, they are just sitting there out there and telling people that, yeah, if I would take whatever the Jordan or Chris take, I would definitely win a card. But I don't want to sacrifice my health or something like that. They've always have some sort of
Yep.
stupid explanation why they are just pussies. You cannot
Yeah.
say it differently. Yeah, this is just it's all about the life. Is I think is mental game. Either you have it or don't, and that's it.
100%.
Jordan, it's the same shit, different country, right? Same
Yeah.
type of mentality over here, same type of mentality where people everywhere they convince themselves why they're not where they are to make themselves feel better,
Yeah,
because
100%.
ultimately they can't accept that that person's just better than you. And it's better than you, not physically, mentally.
Right. Yeah. It's all a
yeah.
mental game, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I have to ask you, Chris, uh, our Jordan was like an easy client to how to say, like, figure it out, or is he have something that's always a mental challenge for you, for example, picking wise, or maybe gaining size wise, or maybe like doing a diet phase or something like that? Because there are those guys who are actually doing whatever they have to do, but they have always struggled losing weight, or maybe holding a shit ton of water, or maybe just, I don't know, this is very hard to pick them because they are, I don't know, have like a thicker skin or something like that. Most of those guys are probably the black guys, and there's always an outstanding client out there who are, no matter what, there's always something wrong, and you know that he isn't do anything wrong. He's just don't know why. It's something, it's out there.
Well, it's funny. I have a lot to say about this, and the trajectory has always been in the positive direction with varying rates. Sometimes the trajectory of progress was very high, sometimes it was not. But ultimately, we've made consistent progress consistently. I will say specifically, almost all his peaks were different. I wouldn't say we could pick out some similarities for sure, but we do know that he looks better on the flatter side. He looks better when he's like 88% full. He doesn't look the best when he's 100% full. I can tell you that, but there hasn't been any things where it's like constant. I mean, at one point he was getting injured fairly frequently, and I had to talk with him. I said, "Hey man, like I don't do too much of Jordan's training. I kind of throw in like little nuggets here and there." And I said, like, listen, what you're doing is not working because we keep getting hurt. So you're really going to have to start looking at weight differently, looking at how can I make this weight harder on the muscle instead of just trying to move more load. The bigger you get and the older you get, the more time you're gonna need to spend doing mobility work, more time you need to do deep tissue work, more time you're gonna need to be working on full function of joints to making sure everything works properly. Because just like a race car, the more horsepower you put into an engine, the likelihood of disaster just keeps continuously increasing
Yes.
because of the performance of that car. The body's the same way. But typically, how I really work is I just follow what his body's doing. And I really try not to take any prior knowledge that's going to dictate my current decisions. Case in point, we did Tampa. I thought Tampa Peak was decent. I didn't think it was awesome, even though Tyler Manning comes over to me and goes, "You guys nailed your peak." Did I think the peak at night show was flawless? 100%. The second Jordan walked out and I looked at him, I looked at Quentin, I'm like, Jordan's going to win. The 100% Jordan's going to win. I knew it right away. When we did a front relax, I'm like, there's no question about it. He's got it. It's going to be easy as pie. Where prejudging it was closer. Night show, Jordan slammed the door. So I had an idea of what we're going to do for prep just a week later. It's only a week. It's the same damn person. It's only a week. And then we get there and his body does something completely different. And then normally his body weight climbs as the day goes on. And I track how much weight he's gaining, how much weight he loses overnight, which will dictate the water intake for the next day. Sodium will be consistent. Then I'll see how the carbs go and then make the decision on a quarter or a third diazide. And then as the day goes on Friday, he's staying the same weight and he's getting better and better and better. So then I'm like, we might have to actually drink a lot more water because your weight's not gaining at all. It's not taking to the body. So I believe, I have to check my notes. I believe we bumped up the food a little bit more, bumped the salt up a little bit more to help
We
the
did.
body
We like
absorb.
doubled the salt.
Yeah, double the salt, right? On Friday?
Hmm.
Yeah, on a couple meals. And then his body started to pop more, but he wasn't losing any lines or definition. And then we get to the night show. I mean, we get the nighttime, and I look at Jordan, I'm like, Jordan, you're going to bed right now significantly drier than you normally do. Now, obviously, if you take a diuretic, you're gonna wake up tomorrow morning, probably lights out, cadaver ripped, but you might be super flat. Now, the positive is you're not on stage till 1 p.m. So you have time to fix that. We can do no diuretic or we could do like just a tiny bit. And Jordan and I both made a decision together. Let's take a risk. Let's do a little bit and get dry. And tomorrow morning, if we need to drink more water and more salt, we can easily do that. And we wake up Saturday morning and he was fucking lights out, like
Dude,
lights out.
I was skinless that morning. I've never felt
Yeah.
like
I mean,
that.
so that's a perfect example of like I had a projected plan from a week ago on what I saw. And then everything's going as planned until Friday. And I'm sitting there looking at him every 2 hours and I'm just like, well, that's different. This is different. But
Yeah,
that's what makes, I think, a good coach is like you don't have any pre-perceived notions of what you're going to do. You have a tentative plan and you're bending that plan on what that body is doing here and now. And I was just following what his body's doing. His body tells me this, then I'm going to do this. His body tells me that, I'm going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like I
yeah,
wasn't forcing my own dogmatic beliefs on his physique.
Yeah, so
yeah. That
Jordan, I have
worked
to ask,
perfect,
yeah, I have to ask you then, because you work with Chris for a long, long time, and as he learning your body, he, are you feeling like the preps are getting easier and easier right now, or is getting harder in some sort of way?
bro. Way easier. And two, one thing I will say that Chris had mentioned something about me that I think we have both had to learn, and that I'm still having to not be frustrated with. My weight can be erratic. My morning weight can be up and down for it's like, why is it this far up? We reduce food, we increase movement, like you're not fatigued, like just my weight does some funky things. And he always reminds me, well, we know your weight does this. And it's almost like I forget because I'm like frustrated, earlier in the prep when we like to get lean early, which I like about what we do. We always get ready early and then feed more into the show and manage fatigue well the whole time. But when we were at our lowest food, this prep and last year's prep, the same thing happened where I think, for one thing, my body was managing recovery really well and so efficient that I was actually like growing a little bit in prep. But my food was so low. We both, at one point during this last prep, we were like, what's going on? Like Chris even said, he's like, what did you jump in did you get like some kind of gamma radiation or something like that? Like, and because my weight, we were on really low food for me, not crazy cardio, but like, a good bit of movement, steps. My output's always high because my training's really hard. And my weight was like just sticking. And sometimes it would bump a little bit. And every morning I'm getting so frustrated looking at the scale. I'm like, I'm freaking starving. Why is the scale not moving? But I was getting leaner every time we took pictures.
Yeah.
So it's some things like that where my weight will just be a little up and down and it doesn't make sense, but sometimes it's a good thing.
Dude,
Yeah.
you'll like this because when it comes to gear, the gear question. So like we initially did a fast prep, much faster than we normally do for this because we decided to compete the last minute. And I said to him, I go, we're going to be really aggressive. You're going to be checking in every day. And he checked with me every day with information. And then I would request pictures when I needed them based on the weight trend I was seeing. So as he was just describing, I was just unfolding. Nothing was making sense. But I said to him very clearly, like, listen, I know the update that I sent you is very low food than you're used to. You can't panic. We're just going to push you hard, then pull back. And at the time, we're just running like test and EQ. That's it. And he was just getting crazier and crazier. And I go, listen, none of this makes sense at all, but we're just going to let it roll. Because typically you might start some contest prep drugs around 12 weeks out, 10 weeks out, 8 weeks out. And like, I go, dude, let's just hold off a little bit longer, like a little bit longer. Like everything's going insane. Why mess with it? It doesn't make any sense at all. If you took this plan and you gave it to 10 coaches, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is terrible. The food's too low and the gear's too low. This is terrible for a bodybuilder. But the result was the result. So I'm like, not going to argue with that. And then obviously, as soon as everything turned on, his body was just like, and every check-in, I remember Jordan like, and then my first line goes, none of this makes sense, but this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun, man. It was really fun and really cool to see that my body just respond that way. It was very surprising. This prep and last prep, like I said. So again, another reason to not get fat because we've been so efficient heading into a prep it's like I started growing more efficiently than I was when I was allowing more body fat to come on, you know?
Yeah. And this is actually what I'm asking for because, for example, I have a client, Matthias, probably he watches this, and you know that coaches always says, like, the peak week is supposed to be very easy. You just shoot for a different, like a specific look on the like a peak week, and then you just trying to shoot that weight or that look at the show day. It is easy. It's supposed to be easy. And with him, that's not gonna be working just because a week before the show, he's usually looks like 8 weeks out. Even though 3 weeks out, he looks like ready to go, like shredded to the bone. And then he's just, for some reason, I don't know if it's stress, if he's just water buffalo. And then we have to just not be in panic, just doing the everything we do consistently, then just slightly manipulate the food and maybe a little bit of water and maybe just a little bit of diazide or something on a like an icing on a cake, like really mild because he tends to get really, really flat and that's it. It's always looking great. But this is like those clients that's you can't even pinpoint anything because everything is going like that, and then you don't know why. It's like a stress
Right.
related or
100%.
yeah, it is something bizarre. But this is how it goes. And I have to ask you, Jordan, what is the one thing that you appreciate the most in Chris as a coach?
I mean, the relationship we've built honestly means more to me than anything. I mean, just the amount of time we spent over the years getting to know each other, the wins mean so much more every time. And the relate, like I've said this to him and on podcasts, like I'm going to finish my career with Chris. Like there's nothing that, and I've also always said that Chris is the best thing that's happened to me in bodybuilding. So, we've talked about how much I trust him. We talked about how much he helps me from the mental aspect, but it's just become so much more than that for us because we enjoy doing this together so much and we have so much fun doing it and traveling to shows together and just it truly being a team like family effort that feels like so much more obviously it is so much more than just a coach client at this point with me and Chris. And so now chasing an Olympia and Arnold's in the future and all this other stuff, it's just getting more and more exciting. So just being able to have him in my corner and him being such a close friend, mentor, and like family to me, that's what's the most enjoyable part at this point. It's always been a level of trust with him from the get-go that I knew I was in good hands. But now it's so much deeper than that. So
Beautiful said. And what about you, Chris? What's the one thing that you appreciate the most working with Jordan?
Honestly, I would say first and foremost, the most important thing is having Jordan trust me. Because like I know it's a hard thing to say when you just blindly say to clients, trust your coach, because I know there's a lot of untrustworthy coaches. But like I think that because Jordan and I would say that comparison or that saying, we're both cut from the same cloth. So like when we started to communicate with each other, I got the vibe right away that he was a good person. And I think he got the vibe as well. I was a good person and I truly did have him in my best interest. And I think that's what built the trust. But like that and allowing me to continuously coach him and not be steered because, dude, you know how it goes. You get an athlete that starts to progress, and then everybody's in his ear. Everybody, because
Yeah,
everybody's quickly to try to grab him and monetize off of him, and he just never considered bailing, and he just told me all what's going on and put my trust in me, and obviously we continued to make good results. But I would think that. I mean, I love Jordan as a person. He's a great individual and we have a lot of fun together. And it just being a part of his success is extremely fulfilling to me. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't have missed Tampa or any of that in the world. And I already told him, like, I'll travel to every single damn show that you do. Like, I just bring my computer. I work from my computer, just bring my computer.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'll just grab a suitcase and let's fucking go. So I think it's a lot of it's that it's being like, if he didn't have the trust in me and he didn't stick with me, I wouldn't be a part of the wins that he had. And for me, I told him, I go, man, this is even for me as a coach, because I think I love this. I'm not saying other coaches don't, but like I have a very intrinsic fulfillment out of seeing my guys reach their potential and win. And being a part of Jordan for this long, seeing him progress, not only like financially, with his wife, with competing, his whole entire life, just continuously crushing in every aspect, becoming a better person, everything. Being a part of that is fucking awesome. And when we got off of Texas, bro, I'm like, dude, these memories I'm gonna have fucking forever, like forever, like sitting there, like having them like call out, like the runner up, and they call. I think Joe got third in Tampa. Joe got third in Tampa, and they're going back and forth, and they're like, second place is, and I'm like, oh my god, and like I had to like walk away. I was gonna start crying. I'm like, I gotta walk away. Gotta walk away.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Like half our emails after Texas Pro, he's like, "Hey, just to remind you, we won 2 pro shows in a row, just in case you forgot." So it's
Just a
great. It's
reminder
amazing
before we go.
memories.
Yeah. I can totally relate to you, Chris, just because I am as a competitor. I've always miserable when it's the show day, so I barely remember anything from the show days and stuff like that because I am just barely like seeing on my eyes. So it's always like a tough times for me. But being a coach is totally a different game. You just
Yeah,
you
yeah,
just could you just can't be happy with. This is why I love to, for example, go in with the show with my wife and stuff like that when she's competing, just because I can be just happy that she's doing what she loves to, and just being out there and then look at those people who are competing, just they making like they life like fulfilled just because they are on a stage that day on the best shape, and they're gonna probably remember it for the rest of their life because their mind is not as cloudy as me when I am competing. So
yeah,
so this
yeah.
is definitely a better. And I just like I'm not gonna take you guys a lot more of the time. Just wanted to ask you guys if there was any setbacks or doubt during the time you working together, because you know how it is. Like we are talking right now, and it's all sounds like it was like just the rainbows and just unicorns. That everything is cool and fine, and but life is life, and sometimes something just can get in the way, and maybe you just lost it for a bit. It could be totally related to just one person being in a like a worst time on their life or something like that, because we've all
Oh,
had like a bad days and something like that, and sometimes you can just, I don't know, just being in a really poor place in your life, and then you start to doubt it, the other
I don't
person.
know if Chris would think of the same story that I'm about
Nope.
to say.
Totally different story. But Jordan, you go first.
Well, so 2020 was the roughest year for a lot of people, right? So, like with COVID and everything, I had moved. I won't get into the details, but Chris already thought off the bat, and we'd only been working a few months together. He was like, "Ah, Jordan's making a bad decision here." But I moved like a very long ways away for a girl, and it just didn't work out. But at the same time, COVID hit and lockdowns happened and all this craziness. And like, I left my job to go to another job where I had moved and then got laid off from that job because I was just in training. I was expendable. And so I'm like sitting there, this relationship isn't working out, and I like ditched my other job. I have no income. I'm trying to pursue this bodybuilding thing. I moved back home. I'm moved in with one of my best friends, and he was nice enough to not even make me pay rent because I'm living on credit cards at this point. Savings is dwindling. And I remember, I'll never forget it. I was telling Chris, I was like, look, dude, I don't have a job. Like I can't pay you. I hate it. I'm going to have to take time off of this. And he helped me out for a few months. And I'm not going to get into details of that because that's his
Definitely.
information to share. But he has such a big heart, and that was one of those points in my life where I was at the lowest point I've ever been in my life, where I didn't have a job. I, thankfully had a place to stay because one of my best friends, Josh from home, he opened his home to me before I could pay rent, and then got back on my feet and got back established with my old job that I had and started being okay financially. And then after that year, it was like straight up because that was the next year we won USA's and went pro. And that was a very low point where I thought I was not going to be able to work with Chris. And also my thoughts were he's got such a deep client wait list. Like, this sucks. I can't pay him. Like, I'm going to be ditched and not be able to get back with Chris. Like, it was heartbreaking for me because when I was sending that email, and so he believed that I was going to be consistent because I've had clients before where I've helped them out because they were in a financial position, and then as soon as a few months went by, they quit anyways after coaching them for free.
Nice.
Like, I've done that. So, but Chris helped me out in one of the lowest points of my life, and that was my story as far as a low point that could have been ended our coaching client relationship, but he believed in me that I was going to get back on my feet and keep rolling with it.
Yeah, before Chris, you start, I just wanted to thank you for sharing that story, just because I think that's gonna be eye-opening for a very large amount of people because they are always thinking that we are just having like a perfect life and the bodybuilding is easy for us just because we just have those sponsors and they are paying for everything and the money just coming to your account and you just train, eat, sleep, and just having a
It's
happy,
still
great
not like
life.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's still
It's
like that
still
now.
nowhere close to that. I'm so busy just trying to get everything accomplished, even though I have more sponsors than ever.
yeah. Okay, Chris, your
Okay.
story.
All right. So for my story, I never actually had any doubts on his ability to improve. Now, I'll take you through a brief timeline. During that tough time, I hung with him because I knew he was making a poor decision, but I know he needed to make that decision and make that mistake himself to realize that that move was wrong. And when he came back and he said that, and like, there's no chance in hell that I'm letting him go. I go, I'm going to stay with him and we're going to keep him focused on what he can focus on because I know that one, I knew he had genetics under that fat. I knew he did. And the shape and the structure. I also knew he had a very different ability to be consistent than other people. I just think he needed direction and someone to believe in him. So when we started to move through that process and everything in his life started to turn around, his consistency did not waver. We are still making progress. As his first show went on, I started to see more of his structure and shape. I'm like, this kid's going to be good. I still never doubted his success. I didn't know quite how far. I tend not to look that far because you can't predict that far. I'm just going, no, like,
Yeah.
coming out of that show with the qualification, like I knew he belonged on the national stage. I knew he did. And then once he saw his peak and I saw him 2 days out from USA's, I was like, oh, he's going to do well. I'm not going to tell him that, but like, I know he's going to do well. And then he wins. And then I look at the super heavyweight and I'm like, oh, he's going to beat him too. And then he does win the overall. And I'm like, I know he's going to be good. And I know he's going to be a good pro too. I just don't know how soon. Then we did the first pro show and going the first pro show, I still never doubted that he wasn't going to be good. I said, I don't know how well he'll stack up his first run against these guys. And then when he walked out on stage, I'm like, I knew he belongs on the pro stage. I knew he was ready for the open stage. And then when he was up against and being compared against everybody, obviously excluding Labrada at the time and Andrew Jacked,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, Jordan could have placed third, in my opinion. And I'm like, and then once he gets fifth and I see where we are, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get fucking good. And then we went through the next year Again, I had no doubt on anything. And then I would say things to him, though, if I saw things that could potentially be detrimental to the progress, like the training, I go, hey, man, you can't be influenced by people trying to tell you to put weight in the deadlift bar and deadlift and hurt your back. Like they can go
Yeah.
fuck themselves. I go, you got to stay in your own lane with your training, and you got to do that because you're one injury away from ruining everything you have. You got good momentum. And Jordan just goes, takes that information, pivot, and goes in this direction. And then we keep going. And then as this every year, I didn't have any doubt because again, I know he knows I believe in him. I know he knows I have him in my best interest. He's coachable. He's super consistent. He's disgustingly hardworking. And I knew that combination of genetics and having that mindset. I know he will continue to go further and further and further and further. As long no tragedy strikes or injury occurs, I project Jordan being really good, really fucking good in the next 2 to 3 years. And like again, I saw that because as being a coach yourselves and competing, you're
Yeah.
like, man, I had the mindset, I did, but my body really wasn't there. And now I meet and I coach all these people, and I see the mind, not the body, not the mind. And all of a sudden you get the body and the mind together, and you're like, oh, come here. Let's have a talk. Oh, he's
Yeah.
coachable too. He's coachable too. Oh, this is going to be fun. And that's kind of like my projected story. Like it's still today now. Like I still talk to Jordan. I tell him, I go, listen, it's exciting to have all what's going on with you financially, the sponsors, the background, but you have to act still like you're that bodybuilder 4 years ago because you don't buy anything, don't buy a dumb, nice car. I go, just keep making good decisions with everything that you're doing because every decision is going to lead on to the next path you are. And if you continue to make the good decisions you have been, it's just going to get better and better and better and better and better. But it gets tempting with all the new things that are going on. We got to be smart. Can't get too excited. Take it in, look at it. Let's break for a second before we make a decision and then go with it. And Jordan's been crushing all his decisions and everything's just been going out. But I still remind him all the time because it is super exciting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is the
for
one
sure.
thing I told all of my guys that I'm close with. Never made a lifetime decision being on prep.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it's better not do any decisions, even buying those shoes, clothes, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because you can spend like 1,500 like dollars daily on clothes that you're never gonna wear, and
Yeah.
shoes that you're never gonna wear, or cars
Yeah.
that you're never gonna ride, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is like going crazy with those things. So definitely. Okay, guys. So. Obviously, the big time is closer and closer. So I have to ask that question. What are your game plan for the Mr. Olympia? It's probably a little bit more to the Chris because he is like the mind here, and you being a coachable probably gonna just prevent those feedbacks and do your job because it never just made you like being uh, worry about anything when Chris is on top of everything.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you
stress
want
free.
me,
I just listen to him.
you want me to answer this, Jordan?
Yeah, yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, dude. So like just like anything, you have a projected plan, you have an idea of what you saw and what's going to happen, and things go different directions. So we were 258, 259-ish at Texas. And now he's like 10 pounds up and he's pretty sharp. Does it make sense? Doesn't make sense. But we're rolling with what we see, and he's probably going to be sharper, drier, and probably 5 pounds heavier on stage at Olympia. We are working very hard daily on waist control, core movement, bracing movements. And already in the ab and thigh frontal bicep, his waist is very streamlined and small. So we're going to try to change the illusion of the physique on top of being a little heavier and probably even a little more conditioned. So obviously, as you know, if you change the waist by 4 or 5 inches, you change the
Yes.
whole structure of the physique. And in a short period of time, it's not like you can put on a ton of muscle, can't do a whole lot different, but we sure as hell can change our stage presentation, some of our posing, and draw on the waist. And so far, we've done just that. But I mean, as of now, what I thought we were going to weigh around is probably not going to happen. It's going to be heavier. And seeing his pictures yesterday and his weight, and I'm just like, fucking hell, oh, another one of those surprises. But we're just gonna roll with it and see how things progress as the last few weeks unfold.
So that's the Chris idea and game plan. And what actually you, Jordan, have to do daily to manage the expectation?
Well, I mean, it's definitely different having the expectation going into the Olympia of like people talking like, "Oh, what are you going to place?" And for me, I'm just so grateful as far as even being able to be on the Olympia stage. And like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, if you're even top 15, that's like going to be so competitive this year. But my goal is like my ultimate goal would be and dream for this year would be to top 10. And so I'm doing better, I would say, with the expectations of this show for whatever reason than I have in shows in the past. I think last year in 2024, I kind of crumbled under expectations prior to Chicago Pro, and that showed on my stage presence at Chicago. And then I gained some confidence, and I'm doing much better with swirling expectations online and stuff. But I definitely I'm very confident with what we're about to bring, especially having the little short rebound we had out of Texas. Looking at myself yesterday at the gym, waking up at 269, and my training partner's like, "Dude, your calves are so dry." And I'm like, "I know, I don't know what's going on. This is so weird." Like, I was 257 waking up at Texas Pro, and now I'm 269, 270 waking up lately, and weight slowly coming down. But I'm just I, I have no concern as far as like Chris having me in the right spot. There's definitely a lot more expectation on me as far as my phone's usually a bomb every day lately, and trying to keep up with everything and keep up with the social media, keep up with my clients. It's definitely a lot higher stress than it normally is in a prep because it's now my job and I have to monetize it, and I have all these obligations now that I never had before. So just what's the most important for me is remembering what Chris always says is like, don't forget the money maker, which is training, eating, sleeping. Like those are your priorities. That's what's going to project your physique and continue to improve, and like manage the other things as best as you can. So it's a very different prep now. Being in the position I'm in, I welcome it all for sure. All the podcasts and all the different things that are swirling around now. It's very new for me, but I'm learning how to manage it all. So
Yeah. Obviously, this Olympia, like I feel that we are saying this every year, but this is probably gonna be the one of the biggest Olympia all of the years, at least like 10 years right now, because there's so many heavy hitters right now on the stage, and that's gonna be quite a huge competitor list as well. And I am not gonna even try to predict anything just because it's almost impossible. And
Yeah.
I don't want it to mess with your head, neither I don't want it to say what I'm thinking just because it's gonna mess with your head. But but I I am just wishing you that you're gonna pull out the Fitzwater card. So you know what I mean.
that's that's been in
It's
the back of
water.
my head. That's been in the back of my head thinking, man, it would be really cool to just surprise everybody. Not placing that expectation on myself, but that I couldn't help but watch Martin last year show up at his first Olympia, top four, and be like, what's the kind of possibilities for me? I'm not one of these delusional people that wants to claim anything online, but we're shooting for the stars for sure.
I'm not gonna sure how do you take it, and if my I hope that my poor English is not gonna destroy the all of what I wanted to say. But to be honest, probably no one will expect that you're gonna win those shows, because you're not like a guy who's like uh super. I can
I
find
don't
a
have
better.
I don't have that
You,
wow factor
you,
of
yeah,
one specific
you
muscle
are not
group.
Quinton. You are not Quinton. You are not like a Andrew Jack. Like they say every year they say that he is gonna be a Mr. Olympia, and yet still he is not.
Mm,
And you are the guy who just fucking worked the ass off, and you're more like a Branch Warren, like a guy who is
I
just
get that a lot.
earned it. And if when you were winning, I was so fucking happy. You can't even
Thank you, man.
imagine. And not because you are one of my favorite bodybuilders or something like that. I'm not gonna lie to you, or I'm not gonna put like a false statement here just because you are on a podcast or something like that. I am happy because I know how hard you work for that, and I know that you fully deserve it. It's not like
Thank you.
they give you or something like that. They just don't have the choice. You just don't give them any of the choice. You were peeled. You were perfectly like prepared. And no one could set anything. So this is why I am happy that guys like you, the hard workers, like the proper bodybuilders, are winning the shows in 2025, and I hope it's gonna be uh, at least for the next 10 years, the same story, that not the most beautiful or most talented guy is gonna win, but the guys who are really deserve it. So
Yeah,
this
I
is like,
appreciate it, man.
yeah,
I've always had that. I've always followed that Dorian Yates type mindset.
yeah,
Like no one's gonna beat me in the gym or mentally. Like I may not have some crazy, wild Quentin Uriah structure, but I'm gonna do my best with everything I've got. So,
yeah. Yeah, the true talent is forged in a gym, in a sweat and the blood. I think it's not something that you're born with.
Yeah.
no,
Definitely. So thank you guys for coming to the show, and I hope that we are prevent a shit ton of good content for our people, and I hope that people are going to be happy for a new the style of podcasting on my channel, and I'm definitely happy that the first guests on this formula are Chris and Jordan, just because this is like the right now my favorite combo at this game, I think. I don't know even
Well,
why, but it's
thank
like
you,
you're
man.
just fitting together.
I love it. But I thought this was a really good podcast. I liked it a lot.
I agree.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
We
much.
appreciate you
Appreciate it.
having us.
Okay, so if anyone just stick with us to the end to the podcast, every links and social media platforms to the Chris, who's probably not gonna post anything other than Olympia pics of Jordan to now to the Olympia, and Jordan's, who's probably gonna post a shit ton of things just because who wouldn't, having like physique like him? So that's obvious.
Thank you.
So follow them if you are living under the rock and not doing it yet, and use the code of Chris and code of Jordan's, because all the codes are going to be probably down below as well. And once again, I really appreciate that you take your time, and see you guys later.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so
Thank
much,
you.
man.